I mean, talk about the definition of resilience. I mean, that is it. So then you got clean before you started college?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I guess also that was part of I think, with the Bible that says, "You be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." So I
Hmm.
guess the renewing that part, if we would go the Christian way of thinking, is that now you have a different mindset.
Right.
How did you get introduced to like wanting to go back to school? And prior to this, I guess this is a fair question: is did you like school growing up? I
Yeah.
mean, how
Yeah.
was your schooling before you pursued
That's a
higher
great
education?
question.
Yeah.
My grandfather again will talk about his kindergartner friends that he's still friends with. And I'm just mind blown by that. I'm like, how do you still have those relationships? So I actually counted it out. By the time that I was 16 years old, I had moved 15 times in my life. So
Mm.
I don't have childhood friends. I don't remember the names of any of the schools that I went to. I don't remember the names of any of my teachers. I hardly remember any of the classes. I do remember in high school, detention a lot. I remember being bullied. And so, like, all of the traumatizing things about school is what I remember. I don't really remember any of the fun parts. I not that I don't remember, not once did anybody ever sit down and do homework with me or ask if they could just spend time with me while I did my homework, but I sure would get hit badly if I didn't do the things that I needed to do for my
Mhm.
academics. So no, so growing up, I didn't really have a healthy relationship with academia. And, in my undergraduate and graduate studies, I did a couple papers on the school to prison pipeline. And I absolutely fell victim to that, as many of us did, which is basically, societal issues and systemic issues that force children into continuation schools, into the juvenile justice system, and then that propels you into the CDCR and whatnot. So I always wanted to be a nurse. My dream was to be a nurse. I wanted to help people. I would be such a great nurse. My grandmother was a nurse. My aunt was a nurse. I wanted to be a nurse, like in the ICU, like a fast pace. Like, if you didn't know, like, I'm addicted to that chaos. Um, so I got clean in 2011, December 23rd, 2011. Tony and I got back together in May when he came home, 2012, and we had our first child in 2016. So here I am, have this baby. I have no idea what I'm doing. I thought I wanted to be a stay at home mom, right? Because I'm like, I've just heard all these great things about the bonding and the experience. And, I really just wanted to be, I still want to be, I strive every day to be who I needed for them, and who they need me to be. So I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I had a job at Walmart. Drug court forced me to get a job, and Walmart hires everyone. So, and I quickly moved my way up the ladder there too. Like, I was pretty impressed. Even in my first 90 days, which is like a probation period, I was promoted 2 times, and then I got promoted one more time. But I was miserable. They treated you badly. You had to work crazy hours, and so I quit my job so I could be a stay-at-home mom. And I did that for about 18 months. And I quickly found out I'm not cut out for that. There's a certain type of mom, and whoever, out there listening is a stay at home mom, like,
More
I
power
bow
to
down to
you,
you.
huh?
I cannot. I love my children, but I cannot do it. And so, um, in true transparency, there was a time where Tony and I split up. And it was during that time. So my son was 17 months old, and um, I moved back in with my grandparents, and the same girl that I told you about in drug court, I'm not going to mention her name because I did not get her permission, but the same girl that I told you that I was either going to terminate or I was going to do what it took, was living in my grandparents' home because her house had caught on fire, and she had started at Maricosta, and she started in the summer of 2017, and they had just had a summer cohort for the Transition Scholars Program. It was called Transitions Collective. It was led by Dr. Martine Leva and Dr. Tao Ha. And so they had just finished their cohort. I started in August right after that, because she was just so excited about school, and I was like, you know what, why not? Like, let me go to school to be a nurse. So I started as a nursing major. I
What?
waited for the next year, for the next summer, because I really wanted to be a part of that cohort. I heard about all the cool, things that they were doing, and Yeah, so I started as a nursing major, and if we have a couple more minutes, I can go into the journey of, my
I would
my
like
schooling.
that. No,
Yeah.
this is good stuff. Yes, please. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, so I started in August 2017. I was a single mom at the time. My son was about 18 months old, and I'm going to school to be a nurse. And it was really, really exciting. I started, part time because I had dropped out of school when I was 15, and it had been about 14 years since I had been in school. So I'm like, let me just start part-time.
Ease my
Yeah, I'm gonna
way
ease my way
into
in.
it.
But since then, I'll go into it. So
Yes,
I
please.
eased my way into it and took all the prerequisite classes and quickly found out like I was like getting A's in all my classes and I was just like mind blown, and that's what I've learned about our population, about serving these students is we are brilliant.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all of the things that we were either not told growing up or the things that we were told that were all negative. And so yeah, I'm getting like, invited to like the honor society and PTK. And I'm just like, so I quickly adopted Dr. Talha as my mentor. I think I just told her, you're gonna mentor
Yeah,
me.
she's
Yeah. Yeah,
awesome.
she's
Big
amazing.
shout out to
Big
Dr.
shout out to Dr. Talha.
Yeah.
Tiny T is what I call her. But she was leading the student club at the time since we didn't have an actual program for this population. So we had a club. And I had always thought that like the clubs were like the chess club or the this club or the that club or whatever in high school, and it was for like the prestigious students and that wasn't me. And so when I found out that there was something for our population, for our voices, the things that we wanted to do, the things that we were doing in the community that made a difference for people like us, um, I was just excited. And so it took me 4 years to get my associate's degree. I was a nursing major and I was 3 classes away from having my AA in nursing and the pandemic hit. Oh, I forgot to mention, Tony and I got back together about 6 months later. So that little break, I have to give a shout out to him. I know he's not listening because he's working construction, but I have to give a shout out to him because people ask me all the time, how did you do it? And I'll get into it. But that little break was exactly what we needed for us to look within to figure out what were we missing in our relationship, and instead of pointing the finger at the other person, how can we look inward to figure out where we went wrong and how can we take accountability? And so when we got back together, I told him, I'm going to school. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what this looks like. I don't think I can work and go to school and I need your support. And he's like, whatever you need, I got you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So 7 years later, after getting my master's, he still got me,
Aw.
And so yeah, so the pandemic hit. I was 3 classes away. I was failing anatomy online because everything went online. And Larry Burns is going to make me tear up. Larry Burns was my ELPS counselor, and he was like a father figure, a life coach. I had 2 more babies it took me 4 years because I had 2 more babies too. So I
Mhm.
started with 1 and finished with 3. And
Mhm.
Larry was just like, you know what, Ashley, a couple more classes and you can have a degree in AA and sociology and you can transfer for your bachelor's. And so I talked to Tao and she was just like, honey, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to help people. And she's like, you don't
Mm.
have to be a nurse to help people. And that was like the most profound thing that I had ever heard. It's so simple, but I was like, oh, you're right.
Mm.
So I transferred to Cal State San Marcos, but in the period of me transferring, myself and a couple of those other club members, we were all transferring to different universities, and these universities had a program to support formerly incarcerated students. It was either Project Rebound or Underground Scholars. And
Mhm.
Maricosta never revamped that summer cohort that I told you about in 2017. So we had a student club, but there was the Rising Scholars Network in the state of California that serves the California community colleges, both in prisons, in jails, and in the California community colleges. And so myself and a couple other students we were just like, what do we need to do to make sure that the people that come behind us are going to have a program to serve them? Because all of the schools in our area have it. Southwestern, Grossmont, Cuyamaca, Palomar, they all have
Yeah.
this program, not just a student club. And so we advocated. A couple of us protested at my drive through graduation, and so here we are. We're all, and I'm grateful. Thank you to Maricosta, for investing in us, But I'm transferring on for my bachelor's degree. I felt like I had lost time to make up for, so I applied to an accelerated bachelor's program, which was a 16-month online program. I had babies. I'm talking babies, like 3 of them, and Maricosta approached me, and they're like, "Would you like to help run the program?" And I'm like,
Wait a minute,
No,
what?
no, not really. No, I got a lot on my plate,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I sat on it for a minute, and then I just thought about it, and I'm like, "How could I not?" And so this is where the journey of, like, where I'm at now and what I've been able to do to help others and really to just pay it forward. Um
Well, let me if I can back up for a moment. Okay. So you're at Miracosta, and at that point you switched to sociology
Mhm,
and got your degree in that. And then during that time of transition, literally transitions to CSUSM,
mhm.
that's when they asked you to start. I just want to make sure I get the
Yeah. No, that's
trajectory
the correct
right.
timeline.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was supposed to start Cal State San Marcos, my bachelor's degree, in August, and during the summer before is when they built the transitions program. So I started my bachelor's degree in August, and I started working for transitions at Miracosta in August.
Well, talk about support again, because I think sometimes and how important it is. I mean, you
Mhm,
had Tony, obviously, which
mhm.
is awesome, and you had your grandparents, um, and you actively found support through this club that now
Mhm.
is becoming. Um, how, or I guess the question is, if people need support, what is your how do they go find that when they don't have it? Because if they don't, what if they don't have
Yeah.
grandparents
Right. Well, and
or
yeah, and,
or a Tony?
yeah. No, that's a valid question because for someone like me, I didn't even know what questions to ask. I just knew that I was confused. I didn't know how to navigate things. I was just kind of taking direction, but then still felt like I still have questions, but I don't know what they are. And so, if it's in higher education, there's so many support services.
You start at the university, maybe. I mean, you like you said, you don't have the questions. You're like,
Yeah,
I need help.
yeah,
I'm gonna call up
and
Miracosta. I mean,
yeah.
how does that?
And honestly, if it's somebody who has lived experience in the terms of being formerly incarcerated or currently incarcerated, I highly and they're interested in higher education, right? Because that's what I'm kind of speaking to right now, is looking into the Rising Scholars Network. And so you can go on to risingscholarsnetwork.org, and you can pull up all of the schools. And so, like I said, these are in the prisons as well. We're in every single prison. So, somebody who's currently incarcerated, if you're taking courses, college level courses for an AA degree, you are a part of the Rising Scholars Network. And so many people don't know that yet
Wow.
because it's we're going to figure out why. But yeah, so, but if it's somebody, who's here and they're reentering society and they're like, you know what, I want to get a degree or I want to get a certificate or I want to go to trade school or I just want to do something different or I want something better. The risingscholarsnetwork.org, you can go on there and you can look up the area that you live in or maybe an area that you're looking to move to. All of the contact information is there for either the program director or the coordinator or the outreach coordinator, whomever is leading that program on that campus. And that's literally why these programs are here and why they've been established is because traditionally our population's been marginalized from higher
Oh,
education,
sure.
from
Yeah.
education,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh-huh.
And so, if you we're in 94 community colleges, so not all of them yet, but the goal is to get into all of them. Um, I would start there because these are folks who generally have lived experience and they've gone through academia and they know the barriers and they know the challenges. A lot of us struggle with technology. I
Mhm.
still struggle with technology. I've got 3 monitors and I don't understand how to use them. And I'm just so frustrated. Where's my mouse, you know?
Yeah, I
But
get that.
yeah, there's a lot of questions and really we need mentorship. We need mentorship. For a lot of folks with lived experience, the type of mentorship that we had growing up wasn't necessarily always leading us to the best of places,
Yeah.
and so like I said, Dr. Telha, I adopted her as my mentor, but I had other mentors. She doesn't have children, and so I needed a mother figure that was going to help me learn how to raise my children, and I've got that. I've got a few people. So really, I think it's kind of just getting out of self and any negative thoughts that we're telling ourselves about, having the imposter syndrome or not feeling like we're good enough or we're not worthy or feeding into any of those lies that we've been told when we were younger. And just stepping in and owning that we belong here and
Yeah.
that we're safe, and that there are people that are going to guide us.